right. Item 3.1, we're going to have a public hearing on the comprehensive plan draft that we heard a little bit on last time. So I think we have a few folks that have signed up here for that, and we'll go ahead and let you guys go first, since I have a piece of paper and I know who you are. So we'll go ahead and, it's 6:18, we'll open the public hearing on the comprehensive plan. Is there anything we need to talk about before I invite folks up?
No,
Okay.
again, there's updating a comprehensive plan, hasn't been updated since 1980 in a comprehensive way. And you heard the briefing at the last meeting. We went over the maps, went over the goals and policies and objectives that are contained within the working draft. We've received some initial input from council after going through our full public hearing process with the Planning Commission and receiving the Planning Commission's recommendation. So the process now is we are going through a public hearing process with as this comes before council for consideration, and once council decides that there has been enough public comment, then we will bring forward the ordinance for adopting the comprehensive plan, and over 2 separate readings. And okay, that's where we are.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and invite you guys to come up and give us your thoughts on the comprehensive plan. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at it before you do that, but isn't always the case. Comments should be directed to the council and limited to 3 minutes. Mr. Schimmel, would you be interested in helping me run a timer, since I'm missing my deputy mayor this evening? I have an app for that, but if you could help, I'd appreciate that. So we'll go ahead and get started taking comment, and we'll start with Curtis Hart. Want to come on up? Give us your name and address for the record, and then let us know what you're thinking.
My name is Curtis Hart. I live at 115 Williams Avenue. I do not believe in or advocate for the use of force to achieve political or social goals. This is a guiding philosophy that I tend to live my life by, for it is the philosophy of liberty, and liberty is what this great nation of ours was founded upon. But when I read this document that Mr. Dorn has come up with, I am truly concerned. This comprehensive plan is an assault on property rights, which brings me to my first point. Has all of you read and understood every word of this plan? Better yet, have you read all the city codes and ordinances? I'm working on it. There's quite a lot. Interestingly enough, Kelso Municipal Code 1.04.080 reads, the provisions of the ordinances of the city and all proceedings under them are to be construed with a view to effect the objects and promote justice. Oxford English Dictionary defines justice as follows: just behavior or treatment, a concern for justice, peace and genuine respect for people, the quality of being fair and reasonable, to be just. Further, just is defined as based on or behaving according to what is morally right or fair. There is absolutely nothing morally right or fair about telling your neighbors what they can and cannot do with their property, such as land use policy number 22. Mobile homes shall only be permitted in mobile home parks. In the original writing of this document, mobile home parks should be phased out over time, was included. This should tell you a lot about the mindset of the author. We paid him $47,000 to come up with, kick out the mobile homes and take people's land and turn it into parking lots. This brings me to the issue of morality and fairness and of land use objective number 7, which needs to be taken out in its entirety. Prepare and maintain an inventory of privately owned land not suitable for development, which by the way is decided by the city, that may be appropriate for public acquisition for such purposes as parks and rec and parking lots. For parks and recreation objective number 3, at least he included the words or donation after public acquisition, which is just another word for eminent domain, which are all just fancy words that mean the plan is set up for the city of Kelso to steal people's lands and turn them into parking lots. Any and all words relating to public acquisition, eminent domain, or land theft, whatever you might want to call it, needs to be taken out to serve justice. Now, I live outside of city limits, which doesn't make eminent domain any less evil, but according to land use policy number 4, the city will plan and move to execute this plan of annexing urbanized areas of North Kelso. Myself and my neighbor Chris went around to roughly 30 houses in our neighborhood. We asked everybody on the block and what they thought of this plan. They looked angry and annoyed. Only one person said they didn't want to talk until I said, "I'm not selling anything. The city plans on annexing North Kelso." We talked to somebody from every house on the block, or two blocks in our neighborhood. And the consensus was, no, we don't want to be annexed into the city limits. If we wanted to deal with city regulations and fees, we would have moved there to begin with. We very much would like you to take out any and all references to North Kelso from Land Use Policy Number 4. I cannot speak for South Kelso, but for our neighborhood, it was a firm no.
Okay, time's up. Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Bornstead, come on up. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. I actually brought a copy of
Cool. Thank you very much.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and council members, for this opportunity to voice my concerns on
Can you give me your name and address, please,
Oh,
real quick?
yeah, Chris
Sorry.
Hornstead, 119 North Maple Street, I live in
Thank
the
you.
county. And I see a few things here in the plan that I'd like to remove. Some of these items, my neighbors and I see a few of these things in here that I would like to see removed. Some of these items, my neighbor and friend Curtis Hart has already spoken about, and I agree with many of the things he said. I will just touch on the most important issue that will affect my family, my children, and our quality of life in the proposed charter pass, if the proposed charter passes. When my wife and I started looking into buying a home, we decided that we wanted to live in the county. Living in the county offers you much more freedom and certain lifestyles and perks that you cannot have living within the city limits. To us, it was also cheaper to buy our home and reside in the county. We worked hard and waited several years to be able to meet the requirements to be able to purchase a home, and like so many other people who plan ahead, we planned and budgeted for what we could afford. If we are annexed into the city, not only will this cause economic hardship for our family, but it will also take away the lifestyle we have chosen and accustomed to sought out to live. Chris and I felt so strongly about this plan and the dangers that we see in it that we went and knocked on our neighbors' doors to let them know that there's a possibility of us being annexed into the city. Our neighbors that we spoke to, and we spoke to quite a few, were not excited and expressed their concerns that they also did not want to be within city limits for many of the reasons we choose our homes in the county. In talking to older folks in my neighborhood, as they are an excellent source of information, they informed us that this is not the first time the city of Kelso has tried to annex parts of the county or build a park at the north end of the Kelso city limits. The people just north of the city didn't want it then, and they don't want it now. I would like to ask the city council members to please remove any annexation of urbanized areas of North Kelso from the proposed city charter. We do not want to live in the city. Please do not force us. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And just to clarify, we're not talking about in the charter. This is the comp plan, right? Okay. No, that's all right. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. Great. Thank you. All right. Anybody else would like to comment tonight? Come on up, give us your name and address, and keep going.
I'm Brent Blackburn from 122 Gassman in Castle Rock, Washington.
Okay.
And as I looked at this comprehensive plan, I didn't read it in detail, but what I saw was extension of the United Nations Agenda 21. Now, Agenda 21, if you're familiar with that, essentially takes all your property rights away and puts us in more of a socialistic nation. And our founding fathers, which I'm a studier of, deplored socialism government. The word socialism didn't get invented until 1850, but they called them levelers. Our first 3 colonies were socialistic governments, and when they abandoned it, became successful. When they weren't, they were almost destroyed. The first colony was destroyed because of it. And by the time the founding fathers came around, it had been practiced 35 times with complete failure in every form done. So this plan essentially is a socialistic plan to take our property rights away. I've been in build construction for 50 years, and I can remember when we built houses, you can go out and get a building permit in 20 minutes, cost you $300. Today, any of you have gone for building permits, you know it's a lot longer and much more. And in my actuality, housing isn't built as good or structurally as quality it was when the building permits and there's less regulation. This whole comprehensive plan will put so much regulation that it will stymie growth, everything in this city. And when you stymie growth, you destroy freedom. And the founding fathers felt that the family was the first unit of government, and should be protected by property rights, and that's the only way to protect a family. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, who's next? All right, come on up. Welcome.
Adam St. Germain, 99 Stardust Lane, Kelso, Washington. Live in the city limits. It'd be East Kelso. I talked to me and my neighbors about this comprehensive plan, which I have read in detail. A lot of them already expressed dislike for the city as it is already. We have empty lots and empty houses on our property, or in our neighborhood. And I ask people, the landowners, why don't you do anything with that? And they always say it's because they don't want to deal with the city of Kelso and their bureaucracy. They don't want to deal with the city bureaucracy, so therefore they just choose to not even do anything with their vacant parcels of land or housing up there. There's several empty lots where the city, they just don't want to deal with the city. And then they expressed anger over the wording of the acquisition of land, the eminent domaining of land. And the people already feel in the city that there's already a lot of easements on property as it is, such as my parcel, which has a 25-foot easement on 3 sides of it. And one side goes in the canyon, and I was told it's for a fire lane, even though it goes off into a cliff. And the fire hydrant is across the street, which makes no sense because the fire truck was parked in my yard, the hoses would block the rest of the street off. And throughout our neighborhood, we have easements already as it is, going through the back of yards for city sewer and other city utilities. So we see the use of the language in this is based on land grabbing. We see that we feel that it's just more. We pay taxes on land we're basically just leasing. That's how a lot of people feel. They feel that basically we're just leasing land from the city and they'll do what they want and they don't care. That's the biggest part. People say they don't want to come here because they don't think their objectives will actually be listened to because they'll just do what they want. That's the consensus in the East Kelso neighborhood. They just feel the city wants it, they'll just do the plan they want, they'll take whatever land they want, easements, whatever it takes to do. And like in my little neighborhood, we got easements all over the place already, and they don't want any more further eminent domain practices on their vacant lands or their property as it is. And they already feel that that Newton's abatement is already overreaches. We've had many neighbors complain about that, about such a mowing lawns and stuff on fields and private land. And they said they see lots of city-owned and property the city owns that's in worse shape, as such as the library and the building down the street, which has been for sale for many years.
Thank you. Your time is up, but I appreciate what you're saying there.
All right, thank you.
We get people complaining nuisance abatement's not enough, complaining nuisance abatement's too much. We hear all kinds of things. Sorry, there's an excerpt from the plan up above your head there.
My name's Chris Reitz, 306 Holcomb Road, just north of Kelso. I actually saw this up here as I was walking up, which I find kind of funny, the land use policy number 3, encouraging the preservation and renovation. I find that ironic because this whole area of the town that you guys knocked down was all the historic buildings in this town. But regardless, I grew up in the city, first 25 years or so of my life, so I do hold it dear. But when my wife and I went to buy a home, I didn't want to put up with it. I didn't want to put up with your guys' water and sewer rates, with the constant encroachment on property rights. Longview as well. I mean, they just turn their water into a serious storm for their people, and I didn't want to put up with it. Now that I find you guys are looking to grow your city and it's coming in my direction, it scares me. You know, you've run all the businesses out of this town, and now you're looking to run the people out of it, so you just expand the borders, try to draw more people in that don't want to be part of it. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I know that in their area in North Kelso, they've went ahead and pulled the neighbors. In my area, they're willing to fight you. We'll take it to court. You know, don't come up our road. We don't want your sewer. We don't want your water, we don't want your storm water. So keep it at the base of the road.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can we please get your name and address for the
Chris
record,
Reeds,
please?
306 Holcomb Road.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Sure.
My name is Scott Whittington. I live at 131 Jackrabbit Road in Woodland, Washington. So why would somebody come all the way up here from Woodland? Well, because some of my friends in Kelso asked me to. They also sent me links to this document, which I read about a week and a half ago. It's not fresh. I didn't come with a prepared statement, so forgive me if I stumble over
You're
some
fine.
words here. The way that the document's written, it sounds okay, and there's terms that even make the plan sound good. But it's been my experience that the devil's always in the details. And when I start reading things about mixed use and other things that, other categories, I'm sorry, they're escaping me right now, multifamily use in the document without clear definitions and talking about rezoning certain things, I'm a bit concerned. And I'm concerned for my neighbors and my friends. If I'm a retired man living in one of the areas that this plan proposes to redistrict, rezone, whatever terms you want to use, and you decide to make it mixed use or multifamily zones, what happens to my rights? What happens to the individual? This country is not, this country was founded on individual liberty, freedom, property rights, right to self-defense, right to free speech, and I just worry that this turns into a juggernaut and just starts putting and imparting hardship on your citizens. I think if there is no nefarious purpose or there is no plan to steal people's property rights, everyone's here, or many people here have talked about removing sections. If the intent is truly good and it's the will of this council and the people of the city not to harm people, I would recommend putting in positive affirming language that nothing in this plan could be misconstrued to take the property rights of that individual landowner. So whereas some of these people, and I agree with a lot of what they had to say, are suggesting removing sections, why not put in affirmations about preserving the individual, about preserving the individual's property rights, and that the city won't take action that will cause harm. Now, if that person elects to move out or sell it later, then that person's property could be redistricted, rezoned, or what have you, to be in compliance with the plan. But to use the force of government to steal an individual's rights is incomprehensible to me.
Thank
and
you.
I thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming all the way from Woodland. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Who's next? Hey, welcome. Just give your name and address.
Matt Nooner, 116 Williams Avenue, 120 Williams Avenue, 118 Williams Avenue, 144 Williams Avenue.
You get around.
I have a lot of concern here with any annexation. I'm wondering if any of you have ever driven out North Kelso.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been on the road before Barnes?
The road
It's pretty
before
rough roads. I'm wondering, what am I going to get out of this annexation when the roads in the city are terrible and the county's doing such a good job?
They get as much money for roads as we get to run the whole city out of property taxes. So
I know there's probably
that.
a reason. There's
Yeah, they
probably
get
a
it.
reason, so that means my roads aren't going to get taken care of if you annex it, because the money's going somewhere else. And I understand that.
Yeah.
I hope business moves into the Y and it grows and we get some money in this town. And some prosperity. But I'm just looking where I stand, and I know the city took over I've lived there since 1963, so I was like 6 when I
I was
moved
there.
in. So I grew up with all the seniors, the elder people. They were the young ones then, and they grew up and all. It's kind of sad to see your neighbors pass away and stuff. But they passed on some good knowledge of how the county used to have our water supply, and the city took it over, and they were supposed to put a new water system in. And that just happened, but this is like 30, 40 years ago. So I'm looking at like, what are we going to get out of this? And I have lots of concerns. I have only read like blurbs of this or been told. So, and my concern is we are not, if you're considering doing something, please notify us.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think the annexation process would require that. And
Right.
I don't want to get in a debate with everybody. I just want to point out that, when it says mutually beneficial, I think none of us up here are ever looking to bring in people who don't want to be here for the most part. I mean, you may be one, and if 50 people around you said, hey, we're into it, and you don't, you may get sucked in that kind of a situation. But we're not here to put people where they don't want to be, So when we say mutually beneficial, that means us and you both, and the county, for that matter, so.
I'm not seeing that side of my
Yeah.
benefit.
That's perfectly reasonable place to have. Like I say, we haven't done all the analysis of what that benefit might be if there is one. It's, and it's certainly typically not any benefit to the city because residential customers usually consume more in services than they provide in property taxes. And industry and commerce help subsidize what we as residential properties consume. So there's certainly no financial advantage to us to do that. Next person, anybody? It's taking a little longer to get people to stand up. All right, if there's nothing, we will go ahead and close this hearing on the comprehensive plan. I thank you all for your participation at 6:39. I'll steal my phone back. Not that I don't trust you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
did also want to make sure we included for the record, just because they're here, there's a land use and zoning request from Rodman Realty relating to landowner Jim Stanley and for a comprehensive plan land use designation change to multifamily, or I'm sorry, high-density residential from the current commercial.
You looking at that as a part of the amendment to the plan?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm not so sure I think it is either. But don't do it from there. Don't do it from there.
So Jordan Willis, 815 Boating Road. And so a couple weeks ago, we received an inquiry from the owner, Jim Stanley, in Phoenix, Arizona, for this commercial lot. And it's currently zoned commercial specialty retail in the land use designation. And as a firm, what we've kind of come to realize is that we don't believe economically it can support growth given that current zoning, because that would allow high-density residential should there be a ground floor retail. And on the I-5 corridor, where that is located along the Kellyman River, we believe that it should just only be high-density residential without retail below, given the fact that it's on the river. It can't support underground parking, should high-density residential be above retail. And so the document you have in front of you is just a letter on his behalf from us, just requesting that change to the future land use.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that information. We'll send that through to Planning Commission probably, huh? All right, let's go ahead to the consent agenda, and we'll be right back for citizen comment in just a second. But the consent agenda, we have two things. One is the appointment of Daniel Graves to the Planning Commission, position number 3, and auditing of accounts in the amount of $1,464,950.43. Is there anything anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda for separate consideration? If there's not, is there a motion to approve these two items on the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? I hear none. Motion passes. Consent agenda is approved.